Welcome to the Success in Africa podcast with Dr. Modupe, your weekly dose of leadership vitamins to make you successful in Africa.
Hello and welcome to the Success in Africa podcast number 24. My name is Dr. Modupe Taylor Pierce, and I am a scholar and practitioner of leadership and organizational development. Simply put, I study what makes people successful. I have been studying this for 3 decades with a particular focus on people in Africa. And in this podcast, I will share stories, lessons, and insights about people having success in Africa. Why this podcast? Because I am sick and tired of Africa being the poorest continent in the world. We are blessed with the greatest resource, young people. Africa will soon have the largest number of working age people in the world. And when these people achieve success, watch out. Africa's wealth will be unparalleled. Why? Because I don't know of too many Africans whose goal in life it is to die poor. You see, success in life is simply the achievement of a predetermined goal, whether that goal is owning a house and a car, creating employment for 10,000 people, or transforming your community into a high-income community. This podcast has been created to help you to achieve it. So, if you are serious about achieving success in Africa, I want you to subscribe to this channel. If you like this video after you've watched it, please click the like button. This podcast is brought to you courtesy of BCA Leadership, the largest leadership enhancement company in Africa. If you have questions that you want me to answer after watching this video, just log on to BCA Online. The link is on the screen, and post your questions there. That is where I will respond to your questions. The theme for today's podcast is Your Buyers Have Alternatives. Your buyers have alternatives. I chose this theme because of the importance of understanding and establishing the front end of your business. You see, the front end of a business is the part of the business that attracts and acquires paying customers. I have shared in previous episodes that even if you have what you believe to be the most fantastic product or service, the most amazing website or logo, customers may not magically come knocking on your door, and your product may not fly off the shelves the way that every entrepreneur hopes it would. This is because you must understand that your customers have alternatives. Whatever problem it is that the customer has, that your business, product, or service is designed to solve, is a problem that your desired customer has alternative ways of solving or mitigating the effects of the problem. For example, let's say a person has a toothache, okay? And they could see a dentist for a cavity filling. However, that same person could also go to a quack nurse for a tooth extraction. Okay? The same person could also simply purchase paracetamol and swallow it to deaden the pain of the toothache. These are alternatives. They may not always be ideal, but they are alternatives. And as the entrepreneur, you must be aware of that your potential buyers have alternatives. You must know the alternatives, and you must have a plan to make them aware of your solution and to desire it so much that they will let go of their current alternative and come to you. Let me illustrate this with the story of Taufik Okoya and the Queens of Africa and Niger Princess dolls. Taufik Okoya was born and raised in Lagos, Nigeria, and educated in Nigeria and the UK with a specialty in design. He already had a successful career as a manager at Eleganza Industries, a Nigerian conglomerate, before he decided to follow his passion of becoming the CEO of an African doll-making company. His passion grew from conversations he had with his daughter when she was a little girl. At age 3, while playing with her white dolls, she asked him, what color she was. Daddy, what color am I? When her father responded that she was black, the little girl was unhappy, and she said she wished she were white. And she said this as she looked at her dolls. That moment really pricked Taufik right here in the heart. Sometime later, when he was looking to buy a gift for his niece, he went to a gift shop, intending to look for, a black doll for his niece. Couldn't find any. He asked the shop attendant, I need a black doll. The shop attendant says, sorry, we don't have them. These are all the dolls. Taufik realized that the lack of African or black dolls was contributing to a crisis of confidence in young African girls, and he decided that he needed to do something about it. He invested his time and money in designing an African doll, and after producing some samples, he went to various retail companies to market the doll and convince them to put it on their shelves. He was roundly rejected. It will not sell, my brother. That's what he was told. The customers won't buy it. Now, the retailers were not wrong. Taufik found that even when he marketed the dolls informally to some young girls, they just were not used to them, and they rejected them. Partly because they were just used to the white dolls with straight hair and not black dolls with braided hair. Now, rather than complain about the situation, like many people would love to do, or wish that it were different, Taufik was different. He decided he was going to do something about it. He went on a major public relations and media campaign talking about and promoting the concept of the African doll to parents and extolling the virtues of having an African doll to create a sense of self-worth and empowerment in the minds of young African girls. He spent 2 years focusing on just creating an awareness of the need and made sure that he priced his doll at a level that would compete favorably against the alternatives that the potential buyers had. His efforts started to pay off as parents, then young girls, and finally, the retailers started to buy his products. And that was the order in which it started to happen. Now, today, FICO Solutions, which is Taufik's company, is the producer of the Queens of Africa doll, which is a high-end doll that sells in Nigeria, in the USA, in France, in UK, and in Australia. Now, this company is also the producer of the Niger Princess doll. They make a lower-end product, a lower priced for the mass market, and that one is sold primarily in Nigeria. The Queens of Africa doll, in fact, it competes very favorably against Barbie and has become very, very popular with young black girls across the world, while of course, Niger Princess is definitely the favorite in Nigeria. To keep the cost of the doll competitive, Taufik collaborated with a Chinese manufacturer to produce the plastic body parts of the dolls, then ship the parts to Nigeria where they will be assembled. And in Nigeria is where they assemble the different parts, the head, the legs, the torso, etc. And then they also braid the doll's hair, and they sew and design the clothing and put it on. So that's basically where the assembly is done. Okay? And these packaged dolls, the completed dolls, are then packaged in Nigeria and shipped from Nigeria to various destinations across the world through, and of course, sold through the retail store outlets, and also they sell online through outlets like Jumia, etc. Now, from its humble beginnings in 2006, the company has now grown to almost 100 employees in Nigeria, and it competes very favorably with global doll brands. More importantly, what Taufik has done is that he has provided a means for young African girls to recognize beauty and desirability in dolls that look like them and help them to aspire to ideals that align with their reality. What can we learn from Taufik Okoya and FICO Solutions, his company? I'm going to highlight 3 important lessons that we can learn. Number 1, we can learn the importance of understanding that your potential customers have alternatives and what their alternatives are. You see, you have to understand who your potential customers are and understand how they are dealing with their current situation. Taufik took the time to understand the doll market and to learn the prices and the reasons why the current dolls were selling. He was not an expert in dolls before he started his company, but he became an expert in understanding why children buy dolls, why parents buy dolls, and why the retail stores buy the dolls. Taufik delayed the launch of his business for 2 years as he took the time to understand the market and the alternatives that his customers had. Number 2 lesson. We can learn that needs can be latent. And when they are latent, they need marketing and public campaigns, public relations campaigns, so that you can make the customers aware of the need. You see, the parents of the young girls, the young African girls, they had a latent need to see their girls grow up with self-esteem and empowerment. They also had a need for their African daughters to have toys to play with. That's 2 separate needs. One of them was obvious, one of them was latent. These parents did not realize that the current alternative, that they had, that is Barbie dolls and other white dolls, only solved one of those needs. And they didn't realize it until Taufik made them aware of an alternative that would solve both of their needs. Doing this required Taufik to invest time and effort in making the parents aware of their unmet need and aware of the solution that he was proposing. By investing this time, Mr. Okoya laid the groundwork for a successful company based on a well-established front end of the business. The young girls appreciated the dolls after their parents bought them for the girls, and the store owners agreed to buy the dolls only after the parents started demanding the dolls. Taufik recognized which demographic had the greatest and most urgent unmet need, and he marketed to that group. That's lesson number 2. Third lesson, we can learn that building a business takes time and it must be done with costs in mind. What do I mean? You see, when Taufik desired to do the production, even though he wants to and he still insists that he will eventually bring the entire production process to Africa, but he recognized that the process of making the plastic body parts of the dolls is currently better and cheaper done in China with more reliability and quality, where the infrastructure is more reliable and therefore it could be done more cheaply. The assembly, though, he brought to Nigeria. So he made sure that he did not invest and have to invest the huge money on the machines that were required for the plastic molding, design, and the manufacture of the plastic parts. But the assembly side he brought to Nigeria. He did not let his patriotism get in the way of his business pragmatism, and he has ensured that he can provide the dolls at a price point where the people will buy. Now, he fully intends to bring the full production process to Africa, but he himself recognizes that first he has to build the clientele. He has to build the front end. When he has built a brand and a following and a customer base that ensures that he has a reliable and predictable sales projection, then he intends to bring the manufacturing and the production fully to Africa. Notice the order of things. This is a valuable lesson for all African entrepreneurs. Too often, you see, we are anxious to spend money on production or construction when we have not yet secured a reliable and loyal customer base. In building your business, develop the front end first. The front end is your customers, the brand recognition, the sales and marketing. If you have to rent the machines, outsource the production at the start, but prioritize gaining of customers and building a brand before you prioritize purchasing production machines. Because building a brand and a loyal customer base is harder and it takes longer to do than making a product or a service. So remember, these are the 3 lessons. Number 1, understand your customers and their alternatives. Number 2, make them aware of their need and the solution. And number 3, build a brand and a loyal customer base before you break the bank buying machines. This brings us to the end of episode 24. Thank you so much for listening or watching. I hope you've learned something useful from today's podcast. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel and like this video. Tell your friends about it. Together, we can transform our beloved continent. See you next week.
Tomorrow belongs to those people who prepare for it today. See you next week.